My name is Fields Mosley. I think I've met you all. I'm the communications director here. Today we're fortunate again. We have Sheriff Paul Penzone with us from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and also the chairman of the Board of Supervisors, Bill Gates. They're each going to say a few words, and then we'll take your questions today, okay? So, Sheriff Penzone.
I don't have walked in that many cameras ever in my life. I don't know if it's the hat today. I did watch Yellowstone last night, so I'm trying to channel John Dutton. But we'll get down to business. I will tell you that we have, just because of the time frame and the space that we're in, we have increased security again here at the facility, much like election night. Not because we foresee that there is a problem, we just want to be prepared so that there is not. So you may see a few more bodies out there, but I'll just recap the week for you. Actually, let me start in a different place. I heard some chatter today from some folks who have a platform and their voices are heard, and they're saying things that are disappointing, negative things, criticizing Arizona because of the process and the time frame related to this election. I want to tell you what I've seen in the last week. I have seen people at the polls who are excited about the opportunity to actually participate in this process, working long hours, coming in early and working late because they want to make sure that this election is free and fair. I have seen employees in the recorder's office who show up here and initially had concerns over safety, and all they do is express gratitude, and they go into these rooms and they grind it out every day trying to count millions of votes. I have seen elected officials like the recorder and the chairman here when the sun is coming up and long after the sun has gone down, and I have seen the looks on their face when there were challenges and concerns, and I've seen the commitment and dedication as they work through those. And I'll even talk about the folks out front today, and they were out front the other day, and aside from maybe a few expletives and other choice words, peaceful, expressing their First Amendment right, expressing their concern over the circumstances, but abiding by the law and being respectful for the most part. So if you're saying Arizona is a bad place and that we're so terrible because it's taken a week or so to come to the end of an election, I think you better look in the mirror, because Arizona is an exceptional place. Maricopa County is incredible, and the people here have done a phenomenal job. So I get the chance to speak to you, so I'm going to speak from the heart on some things. I think it needs to be heard and needs to be said. There are good people involved in this process, and I'm confident in the outcome. So if you are not, if you have issues, do not confuse your intentions with your actions, meaning you may be well-intended, but if your actions are criminal, that line still stands exactly where it was. It hasn't moved. If you believe there's ways to do it better, then find the process to make that help accomplish that. Do it the right way. But if you do it the wrong way, then there's a lot of deputies out there who have been working hard for the last week. They prefer not to see you cross the line, but if you do, they'll hold you accountable. I really don't have much else to say other than thank you for your patience and the work that you've done in covering this. I know we're coming to a conclusion pretty quickly here. Looking forward to those who have been elected leading the state in the right direction, and hopefully it'll be about collaboration and not division. Any questions? Actually, I hand it to you. And questions? How do you want to do this, Field?
Let's hand it over to the
All
chairman,
right,
and
thank
then
you.
some questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheriff Penzone, again. On behalf of all my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors, we are so grateful to you, your team, and all of law enforcement for the incredible job they're doing to allow democracy to continue to work. And that's exactly what's going on here behind us and what's been going on for the last week. So give you guys some information. This evening, some point after 6 o'clock, we will have our last big drop of votes. We'll have, we have less than 100,000 left. This will be a big drop of votes. And I want to say something right now, which is what we do here is we count the votes and we report the votes. We don't call races. Those of you in the media call races. We don't do that. We're not going to do that tonight. And the only time you're going to hear from the Board of Supervisors speaking as a group of 5 is right after Thanksgiving. We will hold a vote on a canvass, and we will vote on whether to accept the canvass of the vote in all the races in Maricopa County. But we're not going to call winners or anything like that. Tonight we will have the late earlies from Election Day. We're going to have all those will be reported, with the exception of a few that need to be cured. And let me talk about curing a little bit, because we haven't done that. So we cure, this is when, again, these early ballots come in, and for some reason, all the folks that are doing this hard, tedious, but important work of comparing the signatures on the outside of the ballot envelope to the signatures that we have in the voter registration that the recorder's office has, compare those, and if there's a problem, these don't look like they match, there are questions, then we go about the curing process. So the team from the recorder's office will reach out to folks, contact them, say, you know, there's a problem here, can you help us? Can you provide additional information to give us a level of comfort and security that you in fact filled this ballot out? And this came home to the Gates family earlier this year. So our 19-year-old daughter, she was voting for the first time in August, and she got one of these calls. So clearly her penmanship she's taking after her father. But they contacted her, and she was able to cure it, and then her vote counted. So this is such an important piece of the process. Like I said, we haven't really talked about it now, but now we're starting to get into those, and I know the political parties are focused on that, and they should be. That's great. So they're reaching out to their folks to make sure that they can address this, but also we're doing it proactively. The recorder's office is doing it proactively to make sure that these are cured. There has been a lot of, some people concerned about whether their ballot has been counted or not, and we would encourage folks here in Maricopa County to go to beballotready.vote, and they can go on there to see if their ballot has been counted. Now, there's been a lot of chatter about people going to that website, and they're looking to see if their vote was counted, and they believe that it's indicating that their vote wasn't counted, but that may not be the case. A lot of these people are voting, they're clicking on voter history, okay? Voter history is what's happened in the past. That's not updated for this year. You need to click on ballot status to find out whether your votes have been counted, so for people who are interested in that. So again, last big drop tonight. So what's going to be left after tonight? A few things. First of all, any additional early ballot envelopes that are cured. So as they get cured, then they're sent over here to be tabulated. Also, any provisional ballots that get cured. And one example, there's a few examples, but one of the examples is the conditional provisional. That's when you go to vote and you go to vote in person and you forgot your driver's license. You're allowed to vote a provisional ballot, and then under Arizona law, you have 5 business days to get your ID in here so that that vote can be counted. Again, we've had a long history here of requiring voter ID, and that continues under Arizona law. The other thing is the folks back here are working on those box 3, continuing to work through the few thousand box 3 ballots that are left, and we'll have hopefully some of those tonight and then some more in the coming days. And then the final one, and we haven't mentioned this one yet either, is the hand tally of Legislative District 22. So in Legislative District 22, the candidate, the incumbent, announced that he wasn't going to be running after all, too late, after we had already printed the ballots. So as a result, that's an all write-in race. And so if you have handwriting on the ballot, then that leads to adjudication. And so we have to go through all those and do a hand tally of all the votes in LD 22. So that's another one. You're going to see those coming out in the days ahead. And all those different categories that I just went through with you, after we release the results tonight, we'll provide a full rundown of the numbers that we have in each one of those categories. Again, but that will be after tonight's ballot drop. So with that, I'll turn it to Fields.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you have any questions? Sasha.
I got 2 questions. One is for the sheriff and one is for the chairman. Who wants to go first?
Let's talk to the sheriff first.
Okay, Sheriff. I'm wondering, Steve Bannon was saying online that people can't let Arizona certify this election, and I'm wondering with that if you have any security concerns around certification, which I believe is currently scheduled for after Thanksgiving in the county.
Who's that?
Steve Bannon.
Is he an Arizona resident?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
Well, I'm pretty confident in the team that we have here, and we will, as always, abide by the law and expect everybody else to abide by the law also. As I stated earlier, a lot of folks like to point fingers and make accusations and criticisms, and it's usually those who don't put the hard work in that is necessary to carry out these tasks. So everybody's got an opinion. Not everybody's responsible, and those who are going to do an exceptional job, and I'm not concerned at all about his opinion or others that feel that way.
And then Chairman, I'm wondering, do you expect that we would know tonight whether there will be an automatic recount for some of the big statewide races that remain undecided?
So what I would say is we may have a better sense, but like I said, there's going to be further votes that are going to be coming in after. It's not like these are the last numbers that we're going to report, but probably start to get a better idea of that. And again, with the automatic recount, that's going to happen in December. So obviously there's plenty of time, to determine whether we will have the automatic recounts. The folks are ready for this. This is a change in the law that's going to make it more likely that we do have automatic recounts. There was a change in the law from the state legislature earlier this year to put us in that position. Again, this team is ready to deal with that and do their statutory duty.
Yeah, for the chairman, can we get an update on the hand count and how the audit and how that's been going?
So the hand count audit was completed yesterday, and we can probably, Megan may even be able to provide some additional color on this, but it went very well. It turned out excellent. A couple little issues here and there that we can give you some details on. But again, fantastic work by the folks who came in to do the hand count, and absolutely, again, established and reiterated the fact that these machines work. They're effective, and that they're the best way to count votes.
And then one more question for you. Again, the chatter online seems to have been building a bit today. A lot of questions around box 3. A couple of allegations I'm hoping that you can just address. One is folks alleging that there must be far more than 17,000. They were overflowing at particular locations, being put into Tupperware or unsecure places. And then the other is people questioning why we haven't seen results from box 3 in the past couple of days.
Okay. So first of all, I'm not aware of any box 3 ballots being put in Tupperware. They've been handled securely throughout, so I can confirm no Tupperware unless anyone knows of something to the contrary. The last box 3 results were when, Megan?
It was a few days ago.
Okay. Yeah, it was a few days ago. We're working through, we're processing them, as I just mentioned. We should see more of those. There's a reconciliation process that has to go through, and that's exactly what's happening. Again, this is the people that get frustrated or get impatient. It's because we're doing everything to make sure that these are eligible votes. So I don't understand that. I think a lot of these people who get impatient are those who have been advocates of security, of making sure that only eligible votes are counted. And finally, with respect to the 17,000, I don't know why people wouldn't accept that number. I mean that is just puzzling to me. So I really don't have a response to that.
And Megan will come up and answer a little bit more of this question about where we're at in that process.
My name's Megan Gilbertson. I'm the Communications Director with the Maricopa County Elections Department. So the reason why we haven't put any more results out for those Election Day ballots is because we wanted to get the public as many of those early ballot drop-offs as possible. And so for us, it was a larger portion, and so that's what we were putting through. The team is working here with observers present through the rest of those Election Day ballots from door 3. And the other thing I would add on the 17,000 is we know what that number is because we know the number of voters that checked in on Election Day, and that is subtracted then from the number of votes that we counted on the Election Day tabulators. And so that is our full universe of the number of voters in that category.
Are they all still counting and reading through the tabulation?
Yes, so it does look like the majority of them are being read through by the tabulation equipment. But one thing that we have seen a little bit higher is it looks like voters were using check marks instead of ovals. And it looks like they might have been using those check marks with a thinner pen than what we provide in the polling location, such as a ballpoint pen. And so because of that, that has to go to our bipartisan adjudication boards because the oval isn't fully filled in. And so in order to mark that as a vote for those candidates, the bipartisan board would agree that yes, that was a check mark, and then award those votes. So that's what we're seeing so far with them.
Can I just ask about that? Is that the election day one? Is that, I'm going off yesterday's press release, is that the first line 5,000 of the estimated election day ballots to be reported? That's the box 13.
That's the box 3. Yes, that's the
Okay.
left to be
Box three,
reported.
sorry. So then, if all of the election day, the mail-in return on election day are dropped off, then we're talking about about 1,300 left beyond everything else you're reporting today.
So we're going to provide a full
13,000.
accounting. Yeah, we're going to provide a full accounting of the number of ballots left tonight after we report results, because that's how we know how many ballots have been counted today. You can see our teams are still working hard to provide the results out tonight.
But is it fair to say that if you're reporting all of those mail-ins that were dropped off on election day based off the last press release, that's about 73,000?
So we're reporting the majority of those mail-ins unless any of them need to be cured.
Let's go to Jim. Okay.
So still, and maybe this is still for Megan, I don't know, but just to clarify, two related questions on box 3, or the ballots themselves. You talked about the pens, that the ink was too thin or whatever. So there were pens in the actual centers that you wanted voters to use, and was that because some voters brought their own pens? Did you recommend against using their own pens?
Well, I think we made it very clear, even a month ago when we started doing press conferences in early October, that we were recommending using fast-drying felt-tip pens on Election Day, and we provided fast-drying felt-tip pens. I mean, Pentel was the brand that we purchased, but those fast-drying felt-tip pens were what we recommended. But we know some people want to bring their own pen. We also know that some people were spreading that you should only use a blue ballpoint pen on social media. To what end, I'm not sure,
So
other
that
than...
ballpoint pen advice, was that kind of counter to what you all were recommending here for using those ballots?
That's correct, and I mean, I think people remember back to the primary, a lot of people spilled some ink on, pun intended, on the pen story, but yeah, we recommended that, and that was mostly because we were concerned about the smudging on the tabulators there at the vote centers. We, not sure that that was really the issue this time, but we have noticed through the adjudication process, as Megan said, a number of people were using check marks, and the machine's not going to read that. Therefore, many of those ended up in box 3, and that's what's being accounted for now.
So on this topic, just in terms of the way that box 3 works, because I do believe this is going to come up and it's floating around online. There are many videos of voters talking about their frustrations, that they were trying to get their ballots registered in the tabulation machines. They tried. What was the sort of ceiling number of attempts before they could use slot 3, or could anyone use slot 3 at any time with their ballot? Like, how does that process work?
I'm not sure if Megan wants... Yeah, I had not heard of a ceiling number, and she just confirmed there is no ceiling on how many attempts. Of course, we had a lot of poll workers in various capacities at the polls, and they were doing their best to help people with this process. And I've heard numbers thrown out, 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. I don't know if that's really the case, but they were trying to allow people enough time so that the tabulator would read it. But as we said, if they'd only put check marks on there, or they put or used a really light blue pen, pens come in every single color under the sun. So if they had used something real light, perhaps that optical scanner wasn't going to read it.
But they could have used slot 3 at any time after one try or after no tries. Like, what was the...
I think the chairman will jump in. We've talked a lot about box 3 and how that's used across the state.
Yeah, no, so this is the thing, and I've been quiet about this, but I understand that a lot's been said about box 3, and a lot of blame has been put on Maricopa County for the lines and things like that. We were very clear here early on Tuesday morning, many of you were here, that as this issue started to come about, we let people know box 3 is absolutely an option for people who don't want to try and continue to put the ballot through the tabulator. Box 3 is a safe and secure way to have your vote counted. Everyone's vote will be counted that goes into box 3. And unfortunately, you know, as we've had a little bit of time now to look back at what was going on out there, we had a lot of people from, a lot of leaders in one of the political parties that was literally going out there and saying the absolute opposite to their voters. And here's, you may have seen, some of you may have seen this graphic that was out there. And this graphic was tweeted out by multiple members of one of the political parties. And this is what I want to focus on. This line, it says, "Do not put your ballot in box 3 or drawer 3. This was literally the opposite of what Recorder Richer and I were telling people. It's the opposite of what our comms team was telling everyone. And so guess what? A lot of people were coming. I've talked to Scott Jarrett about this. You know, Scott Jarrett has said people were coming, they were afraid to put their ballot in box 3 because of what the leaders of their party had told them, which was the complete opposite of what we had told them. And you know what happened as a result of this? Our folks who were running the check-ins at those vote centers, they were being pulled off of checking people in, and now they were having to, and Scott Jarrett is a very caring man. He said, they're over there consoling these voters, right? These voters, because of what they've been told, they don't know what to do, and they were trying to work with them. So that was pulling people off of the check-in, our poll workers, so that was extending the lines. Again, I've been very patient. I haven't pointed the finger at leaders of one of the parties, but this shows that leaders of one of the parties were spreading misinformation about box 3. And so I just want to make sure that that was clear for the record.
Chairman, a technical question over here about the LD22
Yes.
ballots. I imagine there might be some folks in LD22 who just didn't vote in the write-in race at all. Yes. But for those who did, have the rest of their ballots been tabulated and now just that race will be counted by hand, or is everything on that ballot?
Yeah, I'm going to go to Megan on this technical question.
Yes, the rest of their ballot has been counted. That's the great thing about electronic adjudication, is that it'll only look at the single contest in question. So we'll be able to come back to all of those undervotes and votes for that contest and be able to do that hand tally just for that race, but all of the other ones have been counted. The other thing that I would add, if it's okay, is what the chairman was talking about at one of our voting locations. We had 150 people in line, and they weren't in line outside of the voting location. They were in line inside of the voting location. The poll workers were consoling them, letting them know, letting them put their ballot through 10, 20 times into the precinct-based tabulator because they were told that the box and the door 3 would not count. And so our poll workers were working through with those voters, giving them all of the options they can inside of their voting locations because they wanted to make sure that those voters had the ability to put their ballots through that tabulator, but also so they could know that when it comes back, it will be counted here. And what we've shown is they are being counted here with observers present under our cameras. They are being counted, and we are reporting those out. So our poll workers were having some of the most difficult conversations because voters were afraid. And not because we weren't providing them the information, but because there was so much misinformation out there about what type of ballot would count. And for us here at the Elections Department, if you are a valid voter that provided your proof of ID, we want to count your ballot. It doesn't matter what party it is. And all of our poll workers were there to support those voters on Election Day. And they were there all day long, all evening, helping voters through that process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question for the sheriff, because at the beginning you said that you increased security, but it wasn't for any particular event. Two questions. Is it related at all to the fact that we could be getting close to a call in the governor's race? And also, will this increased security remain until after the call is made?
Absolutely. When we look at it, we try to figure out, how do we allocate resources at the times that we can project may be most significant just due to circumstances. So an election day is when people are most emotional, and we knew there was going to be activity, and right now, and I don't know how many votes are left or, when those will all be unfolded, but I think we're getting close to end game, so I want to make sure that we're prepared, because a big part of our plan has been help good people be good. If you see that this is not a place where it's appropriate to come and create unrest, then you're less likely to put yourself in harm's way or others. So we're gonna heighten the level. We're gonna stay committed through until we feel as though this election is concluded. People will have those who are willing to accept the outcomes, and that peace will be the word of the day for Arizona as it relates to elections.
What's your message to the public? I mean, some people will like the results, some people will not like the results. What's your message to the public, whether you like them or not, whether you believe in the counting, don't believe in the counting? What are you hoping for once these results come in the next couple of days?
No, I think if you truly believe in our nation and our foundation and our principles, then you recognize that elections, not everybody is a winner, not everybody is happy on that day, but it is a part of who we are, that we respect the opportunities for everyone, that elections are designed so that the majority have the say who's going to be in leadership, and if you're not on the successful end of that conversation, then you work towards the next election if you want to see change. But if you have a different opinion, such as I know a question you asked earlier about someone from outside the state trying to create unrest here, this is Arizona. Okay, this is for Arizona residents, this is an Arizona community. We'll pick our leaders, and not everybody may be pleased with it, but we are going to lead by example. So my advice to you is be a better person today than you were yesterday, and work to be even better tomorrow. And if you want to see change in leadership, work within the system to get it done. But if you get outside the lines, then unfortunately you cross some of my folks, and it becomes a different outcome. But I want to ask you to be respectful to the men and women out there wearing the uniforms, and I want to express gratitude to Phoenix PD and Scottsdale and DPS and the others that helped us out. If you don't have love and affection for people in uniform trying to keep you safe, then you don't even know what love and affection is. So be respectful and don't put them in harm's way. Don't put these people in here in harm's way. The outcome will be the outcome, and I'm confident it will be a true outcome.
For the sheriff?
No.
So I apologize if I want to take you lead, but if you have them for me, can I just wrap them up and be out, and then the chairman will come up here and knock the rest of them out, but instead of us going back and forth and getting our steps in, anybody else have questions for me? Okay, going once, going twice. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Supervisor
Yes.
Gates, I was just going to ask, there's some big voices kind of trying to set up an election integrity line, asking for those who had issues on election day voting, whether they had used Dropbox 3, whether they saw long lines, felt like they were turned away, to call them. Do you think that, or worry that this would in essence set the groundwork for lawsuits?
I'm not concerned about that at all, because when I was a Republican lawyer, I did, we set those lines up to get that information in. That's absolutely, any organization's right to do that, whether it's one of the political parties. And again, if there are issues, I said this in the primary, I'll say it again now. If there are concerns, things that people saw that raised concerns for them, let us know. Call us. A lot of these people are my friends. A lot of these people have my cell number. These lawyers, Republican lawyers, call me. And, we'll take a look at that, see what can be done. But no, I have no problem with that at all.
And just following up to Bianca's question, I believe it was about, Carrie Lang saying that make sure your votes are counted, or maybe you touched on it at the beginning, excuse me, saying that maybe people were looking at their voter history. For those
Yes.
who weren't in the voter history section and they feel like their vote was not counted, what would you say to them if they're not seeing it?
Yeah, no, we would welcome them to call in to us. Be happy to look into that, research that for them. Again, we're here. We want to make sure that every valid vote is counted, every eligible vote is counted, and we've got we have the Star Center, which you may have heard of, which is a call center to deal with these things. So again, we encourage people to reach out to us on however they want to, phone calls, social media, whatever. We are very much focused on customer service at Maricopa County, and we want to help these folks.
A follow-up to
Yes.
her question, for those who checked on the right section for their vote to be counted and it was not counted and they feel like it's not being counted, have you received such a thing, such a complaint? Of that?
I've heard of that. That's
No,
when
but
the,
directly to that
I-
center.
I think so, yeah, definitely through that center. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I addressed it, was that people who are having, they're clicking on the wrong thing. But I don't recall, I mean, I haven't had a direct communication with someone like to myself who had that issue.
One more question, maybe two?
I've heard some language from you today. You talked about misinformation. The Twitter account from the county put out a tweet addressed to disinformation spreaders earlier. I could be wrong, but I sense some stronger criticism coming from you and your colleagues towards these individuals over the course of this week. Can you tell me, is that what you intended, and if so, why?
Do I tend to be stronger in my response to disinformation? Well, I think as the days go on here, as we near the end, as things tend to kind of, build up a little bit, as others, folks from, as the sheriff said, folks from outside of the state say that this, vote should not be canvassed, things like that. We want to make sure that there's good information out there, and we want to also, look, this isn't even about 2022. This is about how people view elections in 2024, in 2026, in 2050. We know that we're all here, all of us elected officials, we're here for a very short period of time. And there's a sacred trust that is placed in our hands. And what my colleagues and I are focused on, obviously this election, counting these votes, but we're also thinking about the future and what we can do to rebuild confidence in those who've had their confidence shaken because people who they believe in, leaders in their own party, sadly, have spread misinformation. We got a lot of cameras here. It's an opportunity for us to speak about this misinformation. And then we know that people watch all of your programs and will hopefully think about that. You know what, maybe I should look into this a little bit more. Maybe I should go on to BeBallotReady.vote. Maybe I should go on to JustTheFacts.vote. The people who've done that, they said, man, I had no idea. I ran into one of my neighbors this morning. I was walking the dogs, and he had a couple questions for me. I answered it. He goes, oh, okay, now that makes sense. Okay, well, I can't run into everybody when I'm out walking my dogs, but that's kind of the equivalent, right? And so when we have these opportunities, we want people to think just for a moment, maybe I should go on, maybe I should go out and find the facts. And for people to have been told that box 3 was not a safe place to go, not a safe place to put their votes, that those votes would not be counted. And then that led to some of the chaos on Tuesday. This team, we have accepted our responsibility in this. But I'm not willing to accept responsibility for issues that were caused by others. And it is clear to me that those lines were longer because members, leaders in one political party were spreading misinformation. I don't know why they were. You guys might want to ask them. Ask them why they were spreading this information, because they didn't get it from us. So we're out here just to set the record straight. We've been doing it since last year, and we're going to keep setting the record straight.
One more question? Anybody? All right, thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And thank you all for your time this afternoon. Just as a way to wrap up, this is probably, with the amount of votes that are going to be dropped tonight, it's probably our last press conference in this room. I know you're all very sad about that, as are we. But of course, if there is a major event, if there's something we need to address with you guys, we'll set up a press conference and we'll make ourselves available. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Underneath you here.
Yeah, I think that's it.